Hey, what is up YouTube? It is K-Rod here. I'm back with another good video here today for boxing content. I hope you guys are doing well. This weekend was a damn good weekend of boxing. I'm going to be recapping on WilderFury3, and I'm going to be posing the question to make my, argumentation on does Tyson Fury have Deontay Wilder's number after Fury had defeated Wilder in the trilogy. I would say in a fair way until further speculation in this third fight. Yeah, let's talk about it. So, obviously, for those of you that don't know, Deontay Wilder lost a 11th round KO stoppage by a right hook from Tyson Fury. Deontay Wilder, he was gassed out. He got knocked out in 11 rounds. He got dropped in the third round, and I think like the 10th or whatever round, but basically Deontay Wilder, he put up a tremendous fight. I give Wilder the utmost respect, and I don't know if my live ever made through or made it through my channel, but I'll say it again. Deontay Wilder really showed out his heart over Tyson Fury's skills, because Tyson Fury did as much as he thought he could against Deontay Wilder, but Deontay Wilder's heart and dedication to the fight really made Tyson Fury work hard for him to get a solid victory, I would say. That wasn't really interesting because you beat a Deontay Wilder that was gassed out in the fight. So if Deontay Wilder's, stamina gas tank wasn't so burned out, it probably would have been Deontay Wilder knocking out Tyson Fury in the fight. But that's something that I'm going to discuss about in this video. Tyson Fury did a good job just picking Wilder apart with the jab, and he broke Wilder down to a point where Wilder, he couldn't implement what he wanted to do, trying to headhunt a lot, which I thought that was a very dumb decision by Deontay Wilder. No disrespect, but I felt like Deontay Wilder had the better advantage to Fury when he worked Fury to the body, because Fury was backing up and he was being forced to his back foot, making Fury very vulnerable in the fight. So, let's talk about how Fury implemented Deontay Wilder's skill set. He did a very phenomenal job by forcing Fury to be more or be more alert off of Deontay Wilder's right hand, but Tyson Fury knew that Deontay Wilder was clipping him to the body, and Fury didn't do anything about it. So that's a good first point that I like to, shed light on Deontay Wilder. He came to fight, but he did not execute the proper methodology to defeat Tyson Fury. So the problem is just simply that Tyson Fury came to fight, and Deontay Wilder did not commit himself all the way to win the fight. So that's really like my biggest problem with Deontay Wilder. He did not commit himself all the way to victory. Otherwise, he would have definitely broke Fury down in the fight, and we all would have predicted what we said Deontay Wilder would have done to Fury if he was, focusing so much in that training camp with Malik King Scott, and he had all these improvements, which he did. He just didn't implement it correctly, and I think with Malik being his first-time trainer and in a big fight of this magnitude, that was like the biggest issue of Deontay Wilder's deficiencies. He didn't commit all the way to listening to Malik Scott, and he made himself very vulnerable to Tyson Fury, leading him to be burned out in the fight and getting knocked out. Now, I guess the big question would be asked, okay, does that mean that you're going to take back all you said about Tyson Fury, that he didn't cheat against Wilder, blah, 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 ha, 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 you LDBC retards need to shut up? No, I think Tyson Fury is a piece of shit, and he will be a piece of shit till the day he dies and every single one of his family members gets killed in the process, because that will be the most important day of his life when that time does come. But I will not view Tyson Fury in a good light. He is a criminal. He's shown it to me. I don't have respect for people that don't respect human life at all. But when you do it in a sport like boxing, like I always say, you don't play boxing and you don't play wrestling. Those are two of the most dangerous sports in the world. And I could say that from experience myself. I used to wrestle in high school, and I paid the price by getting hurt in one of my matches that costed my left elbow to get surgery. And I will say that wrestling is almost a cousin to boxing. But the sport of boxing itself is one of the most dangerous sports in the world and is number one in that ranking as far as putting, basically putting your life on the line, for the enjoyment of people's entertainment, where most people have never boxed a day in their life, versus going to an NFL game or a NBA basketball game or a soccer game or whatever sport that doesn't, require you to put your life at risk as much. Those sports, most people have played those sports in their life at some point of their life. But in boxing, you don't play boxing, and you sure as hell don't play wrestling, because those sports you don't play around, and those are war-driven sports. So Deontay Wilder definitely showed a lot of deficiencies in this fight. I kind of wish that he'd done a lot better to knock out Tyson Fury and give Fury his very first defeat, because I do believe Deontay Wilder is a bad style matchup for anybody. But for Tyson Fury, I don't think Fury is this great boxer that everyone says he is, because he did show a lot of flaws that Deontay Wilder exposed to him, but he just didn't implement it right away when he saw Fury make those little minor adjustments to keep Deontay Wilder off of him with the jab, and then he started hitting him with that right hand, which did not make any sense. And I felt like Wilder, he just didn't, he didn't get away from Fury's right hand and the body pressure that Fury was giving to him. And I think Deontay Wilder wasn't really, he wasn't concerned about that. He was more concerned about Fury hitting him back. And Wilder didn't make the adjustment to force Fury off his back foot and pressure him downstairs leading upstairs. So that's a big problem that Wilder did to himself, where he could have listened to Malik Scott throughout the entire fight, which he didn't. I think his emotions and his fatigue set in where he wasn't listening too much, and it made it so hard for Wilder to actually win the fight, because Wilder was so focused on him just trying to survive in the fight alone, and Fury just took advantage of it, in a mental warfare state of mind, which I don't think that is really the case. I just think Wilder, he just had a bad execution of what he wanted to do to Fury, and I think that if he had just listened to Malik the entire fight, it would have been a lot easier for Wilder to knock out Fury and just beat the crap out of him. I think that's really what a lot of people were expecting Wilder to do, and I thought Wilder did it. I thought Wilder had everything in the bag. It's just, I don't know. It's just that Wilder did his thing. He tried to do the best he can, and Fury, he just had him that night. But the question still remains, does Fury have Wilder's number? And that question is no. I don't think Fury has Wilder's number. He isn't this type of fighter that I think is that good to beat Wilder. And I think, obviously, just based off of how Fury fights, he is not that type of fighter to break people down and just beat them up and then get knockdowns, if not knockouts. So I didn't really think Fury really won this fight. In the sense of him being, this great big heavyweight type puncher. He obviously got Wilder to a uncomfortable position that gave him the upper hand advantage to defeat Wilder convincingly, which I do give him credit for, because that's all the fuck I wanted. I wanted to see a fair fight. I didn't want to see no piece of shit cheating fight. I wanted to see a fight that was going to go the distance and actually give me, my money's worth to see what I wanted to see. So, the problem is that why didn't Wilder implement the right fighting style that was going to give Fury problems, because he did implement it, like going early into the rounds, but then come fast forward to the later rounds, Wilder, he just fell off. So I think it was simply just due to not like just let the little mishap or pretty much let the lapse of not listening to Malik Scott. I think it was just simply just like the inefficiency to translate what the trainer was trying to tell Wilder what to do. I think Malik Scott is a good trainer. Obviously, Deontay Wilder got knocked out, unfortunately, and I wouldn't say Malik Scott is a crappy trainer just because he got his fighter knocked out. I would just put the blame on Deontay Wilder to say that he did not implement the right methodology and the strategy to defeat Tyson Fury. And if he had listened to Malik Scott definitely would have been a lot more effective in the fight, and Wilder, he would have easily destroyed Fury a lot more convincingly in the fight, which he came close to defeating. And I do kind of put the blame on Russell Mora for giving a 15-second down count for Tyson Fury when he got knocked down in the 4th round, which technically Wilder should have been the victor, because Russell Mora, he cheated for Tyson Fury, if we're going to be honest. But sadly, the political corruption in boxing is just what makes, this sport really shitty, where you see the quote-unquote black fighter get beat out by a white fighter, but then we come to find out that this white fighter cheated against a black fighter, and it just doesn't stop, Like, you don't see this out of the NBA, you don't see this out of the NFL, you sure as hell don't see that out of tennis, you don't see that out of fucking soccer. I mean, soccer does have like a little bit of racist, backstory in it, but soccer has been, has been properly innovated to a sport where the best are fighting the best teams, and the players give each other more respect on the field, and the fans actually hold the sport accountable. But for boxing, the fans don't do that. The fans are politically divided with their racist intent mixed in with it, making the sport crappier. And then this is where you see people getting killed at boxing events, if not fighters themselves, because there's so much racist bullshit with it. So I say until that does get fixed, that's really when the sport of boxing does become better. And I think for a fight like Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder shows that when you have a 50-50 matchup, that is when the best will always fight the best more. And that will generate the boxing world to be regulated to a more marketable competitive standpoint, where boxing fight league organizations should evolve from, to bring those fans together, because what you saw in that fight is what boxing should be every single day. And I think what Deontay Wilder should have done is just simply that he should have just listened to Malik Scott. He would have had a great, he would have had a great, whatchamacallit, like, he would have had a great start to defeating Tyson Fury to the body more. And I believe if he had done that, he definitely would have destroyed Tyson Fury late game into the fight, which would have made Deontay Wilder more victorious. So I give nothing but respect to Wilder. He showed that heart can overcome skill, but when skill does beat a man's mentality over the heart mindset that he may or he may or she may have, that is what kind of determines who is, the supreme warrior in the bout itself. So either way, Deontay Wilder, he did his thing, man. I have nothing but pure respect for Deontay Wilder. I love Deontay Wilder. He is one of the best heavyweights ever. And whatever he may do for the rest of his career, I hope he has a great ending legacy fight. I would personally say go after maybe some of these last couple names and just call it, a boxing career. Honestly, he really doesn't need another title, but if he wants to, I'd probably just go for like the easiest belt. Go get like the IBF or the WBL, and maybe just unify, and then like that's it. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, man. If Deontay Wilder's team and himself are confident enough that his health can hold up in the heavyweight division, then by all means go for it. But if it can't hold up, I would say definitely just be with your family. There's no need to be trying to fight people, forever. I think that's really like the main issue for Deontay Wilder. If he is wanting to still continue fighting, I would really hope it is not to the standard of, him trying to fight to a point where his body deteriorates and he just doesn't look like the same guy no more. And I don't think Deontay Wilder's going to do that because, he ain't stupid, man. I think Deontay Wilder has a great post-career life ahead of him. He is his own boss. He has his own promotional business. But, do not come here and tell me that Deontay Wilder cannot, do anything good after his career is over, because he has all the money in the world and he has everything set up for him. So I would assume that Deontay Wilder has a good future ahead of him, and I hope that does work out for him, because Deontay Wilder, he deserves it, and he's done everything right for his career. So as far as what the question goes, I don't think Fury has Deontay Wilder's number. He just had the better exchanges against Tyson Fury. But either way, Tyson Fury, he came to fight, and Deontay Wilder just needed a better implementation with listening to Malik Scott more. And I think Deontay Wilder would have been the victor anyway, and he technically was the victor. He just didn't implement it the right way, like many would think he would, he would do. But I think what happens next is just he can just go that route of him just being maybe a prized fighter for a couple more fights, and then I would just say end it. He has nothing else left to prove, and he's already done what he has to do. So yeah, I give Deontay nothing but props and respect, because he definitely came to fight, man. So I think that's pretty much it, honestly. I give nothing but pure respect to Deontay Wilder. He is a true people's champion by all means necessary. So don't ever try to come up to me and try to say, oh, you're stupid, Dossa. Deontay Wilder's a bum. He's fought nothing but bums, blah, blah, blah. But yet you cannot come back and tell me, name any other heavyweight in the history of heavyweight boxing where Deontay Wilder is one of 6 heavyweights in the world to have defended his title consecutively 10 times, being tied with Muhammad Ali. And then if he had beat Tyson Fury, defend his title again, he would have been the very first heavyweight to break Muhammad Ali's record for 10 title defenses, and it would have been 11 leading on to many more title defenses. So yeah, don't come at me and tell me that Deontay Wilder is not this good, is not this good heavyweight, and he's trash, and he's only fought bums to make his career better, because that's simply not true. Because Tyson Fury was the only person ever able to defend his title once, and he never had defended his titles at all when he had became a champion against Klitschko and now against Deontay Wilder. So Tyson Fury only gets credibility for beating the man that beat everyone in the heavyweight division. which is Deontay Wilder, and he is the most feared heavyweight till this day, to be basically avoided in the heavyweight division. Him and Luis Ortiz, because Tyson Fury has never fought Luis Ortiz, and Luis Ortiz would probably be heavily favored to beat Tyson Fury if they were to ever fight. But, sad enough that Tyson Fury don't want to fight Luis Ortiz, so we're not going to find out until Luis Ortiz probably becomes a mandatory or whatever happens for the rest of his career. But either way, Deontay Wilder is still neck and neck with Tyson Fury. It's not the end of the road for Deontay Wilder. If Deontay Wilder believes he could beat the crap out of Tyson Fury, it would have to be him becoming like a mandatory once more to challenge for those titles, which I don't think Tyson Fury is going to be around, because I obviously see Deontay Wilder doing his job to try to at least get what he can get. But then when it's over, it's just over. You know what I'm saying? So I think Deontay Wilder's reign is definitely coming to an end, but it's definitely not over. Tyson Fury obviously just got the better of him, and I don't think Tyson Fury is better than Wilder. He just had a better night that following trilogy fight. So either way, I think Deontay Wilder is still one of the best heavyweights in heavyweight boxing, and he's doing everything right. He did what he had to do, and he's definitely there. I don't see what else I could really say other than just thank you, Deontay Wilder. If you retire, if you retire by tomorrow, it is not, a disgrace if you do that. Tyson Fury is not better than you as far as resume goes. He hasn't defended his title consecutively, tying up with Muhammad Ali for 10 title defenses. At least for Deontay Wilder, he was a man that beat all the other men in his division that were able to step up to beat, that were able to step up to challenge Deontay Wilder. So Deontay Wilder is one of few heavyweights in the world to have dominated and reigned his division for 5+ years and represent the American heavyweight division to be the best heavyweight in the world until Tyson Fury bested him in one fight that was clean and fair. The second fight does not matter, but the first fight, Deontay Wilder unofficially defeated Tyson Fury, which was called to be a draw. So either way, Tyson Fury isn't really better than Deontay Wilder. He just got lucky in the event to beat Deontay Wilder. So in the end, they're technically at a stalemate. They're technically 50-50 at this point, because when we're really going to be consistent about it, Tyson Fury didn't want this fight at all against Deontay, and he knew damn well that Deontay Wilder, if he was really focused in that fight as he should have been, he definitely would have put Fury to sleep. So the only question was, why did he avoid Wilder leading up to this point come October 9th? Versus he should have gotten Wilder out the way after he had beat him as of February of 2020. He should have fast forwarded to December of that year, and he would have had everything, laid out for him. Because that's really what Fury did. He waited all this time, which, I don't want to continue further on the subject, but COVID happened. But technically, what Fury could have easily done, he could have fought Wilder in, let's just say, December of that following year. That definitely would have benefited Fury defeating Wilder if he were to have defeated him. And let's just say they fought with no fans. It was pay-per-view, heavyweight boxing, whatever platform that it was on. And let's just say if Fury were to defeat Wilder, we would have fast-forwarded to July of that 2020, and Fury would have gotten AJ out the way, and then he would have been undisputed. But no, Fury was an idiot, and he waited all this time to to give Deontay Wilder all this time to prepare, and he didn't do anything. He basically threw everything away, and he basically gave Deontay Wilder all this preparance, and it technically came to a very close fight. So that's really why Fury wanted to, give out as much time as he needed, because he knew damn well what Deontay Wilder was going to do to him. So, I give credit to Tyson Fury for at least having the balls to fight Deontay Wilder, but I don't give him credit for him avoiding this trilogy, and Deontay Wilder had to bring your ass to court and make you fight him by by the federal judge's court order. So either way, Tyson Fury lost this fight. As far as skills go, Deontay Wilder definitely gave him a very tough matchup. But as far as heart and legacy goes, Deontay Wilder overpowers Fury when it comes to heart and legacy. But as far as skills and IQ, Tyson Fury got the best of Wilder in just one fight. The second fight does not matter. The first fight did matter, and Wilder technically beat Fury unofficially, which he got robbed out of the 10-count decision. But in my eyes and in the hardcore boxing fans' eyes, I would count that as a victory for Deontay Wilder, because that controversy itself would be said the same way to say Deontay Wilder destroyed Tyson Fury in the first fight. And Deontay Wilder could have easily walked away and said, okay, well, fuck you. I don't need to fight you. You're not worth my time. But Tyson Fury lured Deontay Wilder into that trap, and Deontay Wilder was like, okay, well, the first fight was very interesting, so let me just do it again. And Deontay Wilder had very little awareness of knowing that Tyson Fury was going to up the scale in cheating to try to beat him. So that doesn't count, but good enough with the third fight after being forced into arbitration and losing millions of dollars in the process. Tyson Fury, was scared to death from Wilder. He didn't want no business out of him, and he knew damn well that, even if he were to beat Wilder, he contradicted himself to say, oh, well, maybe I could fight Wilder, in a trilogy, in a poly trilogy and whatever. And that didn't make any fucking sense, because Tyson Fury contradicted himself and said, nah, I'm never going to fight him again and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you just fucking said that maybe we can fight each other in a fourth fight. So what is it? Is it like you're going to fight him or you're not going to fight him? So, it just showed the entire time Tyson Fury was afraid of Deontay Wilder the entire time. And just to remind you guys, Tyson Fury said after the first fight with Deontay Wilder, I almost died fighting Deontay Wilder. So it just shows that Tyson Fury, he knows deep down he lost to Deontay Wilder the minute he fought him. And it showed within all three fights that Tyson Fury, he was afraid of Deontay Wilder. He knew that Deontay Wilder had the skills to pay the bills. But when Tyson Fury had to cheat in the second fight and in the first fight, which the first fight wasn't doing him any success, so the second fight had to be more like make a statement type of heavyweight fight. And now in the third fight, we actually get a quote-unquote clean fight where Deontay Wilder, he wasn't 100%, ready for that fight, and he didn't dedicate himself all the way through with Malik Scott's instructions. That just comes to show how dangerous Deontay Wilder was, being 50 to 60% prepared for Tyson Fury, which I'm saying as far as being focused in the fight, because a 100% focused Deontay Wilder beats the crap out of Fury, and it was shown in the first fight, because Deontay Wilder had better defense, he had better ring IQ, and he sure as hell was outboxing Fury. So I think due to the battle damages that he had received from the second fight, definitely put a toll onto his body from Tyson Fury. And sadly enough, Deontay Wilder's health probably is just at more risk of getting hurt quicker. because whatever that dent had done to his skull, it probably is now, fucking up his mindset, and he can't, he can't recover as well. And there's more risk of him getting hurt a lot easier because he probably has like a tender muscle inside the, like mandible, skull, jawbone index leading up to his cranium itself of him getting hurt easier. So I think that's what Deontay Wilder is probably afraid of. But if I'm Deontay Wilder, I probably just say get one last farewell fight if you want to. If he feels like he is not as hurt as he is feeling through his damages. But if it's time to if it's time to hang it up, by all means, go for it. I will have nothing but pure love and respect to Deontay Wilder. He is a people's champion. He is a king. He was the king of all kings out of the heavyweight division. I still wouldn't consider Tyson Fury the king, but sadly, as far as political correctness goes, Tyson Fury is the heavyweight king of boxing, which is biased as fuck because he hasn't beat any top guys other than just cheating Wilder and barely even winning against Wilder with a lucky knockout, and cheating against Klitschko and then fighting dirty against him to get a crappy biased decision over him. Yeah, fine. Tyson Fury cheated his way to victory in most of his fights. But at the end of the day, I think we all know that Deontay Wilder's resume is way stronger than Tyson Fury, and he was the man that beat all the men that came before him. So just to make that clear about that. And on top of that, Klitschko avoided Wilder when he was a champion. So I'm just gonna put that there just to keep it nice and simple. Tyson Fury was not supposed to be in the picture at all because Deontay Wilder was supposed to conquer everybody in the way. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say. Much love and respect to Deontay Wilder and his team. Shout out to Jay Jones. He is a beast. He did a phenomenal job covering the behind-the-scenes corruption leading up to the WilderFury3 trilogy build-up. He did a great job exposing the gloves too. So I'm just happy of what happened, man. I'm more happy of Deontay Wilder being dedicated and giving it his all to show to the world that he's still one of the most dangerous heavyweights, and he is still one of the best heavyweights in the world, despite losing to Fury the fair way, not the cheating way. So, in my book, it is a 1-1 record tiebreaker between, or tying score between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. So, I can't really say Fury really has Wilder's number because he really didn't beat Wilder convincingly in the first fight. And we all know in this third fight, Wilder was just never the same fighter after getting cheated by Fury. So, we're going to have to find out and wait and see how Wilder performs against, any other fighter that we may think he can beat. Maybe like Dillian White or Andy Ruiz. But I would just hope his injuries are really not as severe as, as many would say, it is made out to be. And I would hope Tyson Fury, he burns in hell, man, because, he's a dirty piece of shit. He knows it. And I'm sure any of his stablemates are watching. Fuck you. I'm gonna be Team Bomb Squad all day. And I'm happy enough that Tyson Fury showed up to the ring and he got his butt whooped, and he came back and he gave Wilder a good, clean, fair fight. So at least Wilder went out on a shield the right way, not the fucked up way where Fury had to be dirty, throwing rabid punches, and trying to cause permanent damage to Wilder's career. So good enough that Deontay Wilder came out on his shield and went out on his shield like a true warrior. Always does. So yeah, respect to Wilder. I hope he returns, but if he doesn't, I'm more than happy to support Wilder's post career business ventures, because I'm pretty sure what he's gonna do is probably become a promoter. He's gonna he's gonna promote some really big some really big time heavyweights like Dakari Scott. That's probably gonna be somebody down the line that Wilder will support, and he's gonna support plenty of other fighters and expand his own ventures in real estate and whatever. And good for him, because Deontay Wilder is way better than Tyson Fury as far as a individual goes anyway. And I think Deontay Wilder has way more things to do in his career versus Tyson Fury. His path to glory is so short-lived to the point that we're probably not going to hear anything about him unless he gets caught for some drug scandal or whatever bullshit that he gets into. So I'm pretty sure Tyson Fury is more likely to go down the drain more than Deontay Wilder. So much credit and much love and respect to the king, Deontay Wilder. Bomb squad all day. And to hell with Tyson Fury. Fair play to him for beating Wilder the fair way, knowing he got cheated in the last fight. But either way, a fair fight, fair win. So I can't really complain about that. I hope to see Usyk be victorious against AJ, and he could beat the crap out of AJ, and then he could do the same thing to Tyson Fury. I think that's what's going to happen. And yeah, I just can't wait to see where the next generation of heavyweights come up, because I think I'm going to have to make a video about that next, to talk about the next generation of heavyweights to come after Fury, Wilder, and AJ and all these other names disappear. So yeah, I think that's going to be a really juicy video to enjoy talking about. But until then, shit. We're gonna find out what's gonna happen in the next coming months leading into the next year or so. So much respect to Bomb Squad, to Deontay Wilder, and to hell with Tyson Fury. I wish Deontay Wilder a best speedy recovery, and I would hope that he returns back to the ring. If not, I am happy to see him retire, because your health is your wealth at the end of the day. And much credit to a really good fight. That was one of the best fights out of the entire year. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say, man. Bomb Squad all day. To hell with Tyson Fury. Until next time, see you guys. Bye.